Hello and welcome to Aharon. Today we are going to do the first chapter of class 11 NCERT, which is physical world. So what we are going to study in this chapter are, first of all, we are going to discuss about the scope of physics. After that, we are going to study about the macro as well as micro worlds of physics. Thirdly, we are going to study about the fundamental forces, and after that we are going to study about energy. So these are the things we are going to cover in this session. So without any further delay, let's begin. Now, if we want to talk about scope of physics, now physics is nothing but the philosophy of nature. So when we see anything happening in this universe, the reason behind it is physics. Any technology, anything which we are using is a result of physics. How? Let's understand that. Suppose let's start with our mobile phones. So the mobile phones, the technology we are using, there is physics behind it. Some physicist formulated the concept, and then it was made possible. So technology, we can say, is the flip side or the other side of physics. If you take a coin, then one side is physics, the other side is technology. Physics formulates and it comes into real life with the help of able engineers who made it possible. So that is the scope of physics. Now next thing we are going to study is macro and micro worlds of physics. So let's discuss one by one. Now macro. What does macro mean? Macro means large, okay, large, that means which is visible with our naked eye. Now there are many concepts in physics which you can divide it into two formulae, two separate things, the macro and the micro world. So under macro world, here comes, under macro world, what are the things we going to study? First thing we are going to study is gravitation. Okay. Now gravitation, what is gravitation? We know that when something falls, it falls due to gravity, or there is a force acting which is making the things falling on the ground. If you consider this to be our earth, the earth pulls everything to its core, and that thing is called gravity. So that's a macro aspect of physics. Why? Because you are being able to see the effects with our naked eye. Then the next thing is, say, electrodynamics. Electrodynamics. So in electrodynamics we study about electricity, then comes magnetism, and so on so forth, because these things, the effects of these things are visible with our naked eye. Then the next thing can be, say, optics. What is optics? Optics is study about light. We know that we are being able to see anything in this world because light falls on that object and then it reflects back to our eyes, and as a result of that we are being able to see that object. So optics is also a macro aspect of physics. Now after macro, we are going to study about micro aspect of physics. So in micro, we are going to study about atomic physics. That means we know that if we consider an atom, there lies a nucleus and electrons move around it, revolve around it. Now if you study the structure of the atom, then that comes under atomic physics. Then nuclear physics. In nuclear physics, we are going to go deeper inside an atom and we are going to study this nucleus, which is made up of protons and neutrons. So we are also going to study about these in nuclear physics. Then as a third aspect, we can say about quantum mechanics. So what is quantum mechanics? Now in quantum means say basic units or the smallest unit. Say in an atom there are electrons. If you want to find the probability of an electron, that means where the electron might be present inside an atom, now that study comes under quantum mechanics, and there are lots of researches going on in this field of physics. Now I am just going to say about another macro aspect of physics, which is called string theory. Okay, string theory. Now what is string theory? It's just to give you an perspective of the micro world of physics. Say you have matter. If you break it down, you will get molecules. If you further break it down, you will get atoms. If you further break it down, what you are going to get are electrons plus the nucleus. Now if you further break the nucleus, you are going to get protons and neutrons. So if you further break them down, you are going to get quarks. Okay, quarks. So as we have studied that protons, neutrons and electrons are the fundamentals of a matter, that's not true anymore, because research has been done and it has been found that quarks, if you break protons and neutrons, you are going to get quarks. Now string theory says that these quarks are basically made out of strings, and the particular vibration of the strings give rise to the matter, that is proton or neutrons. How it is done? Suppose you have electron. So the string inside a electron vibrates in such a manner that vibration gives rise to the electron, or inside a proton the string vibrates in such a manner that it gives rise to a proton. Now this is not required in your curriculum, but I am just giving you an additional information. So this is a theory called string theory, which comes under the micro aspect of physics. Now let's move ahead and discuss about fundamental forces of nature. So if we talk about force, what we mean? We mean that any push or pull is considered as force. This is the fundamental of force. So any matter you see which is stable, any matter, say an orange, do you hope that there is no force acting on the orange? Okay, the answer will be yes, there are forces which are acting on the orange, or the forces together keep the orange intact. If you apply some external force, that orange might break. So any stable matter you see around it, the matters remain stable because of forces inside it or forces around it which is keeping that matter intact. So that's the force. Now there are fundamental forces in nature. So what are the fundamental forces? There are basically 4 fundamental forces we are going to discuss, and indeed there are 4 fundamental forces. The first one is gravitational force. The second one is electromagnetic force. The third one is strong nuclear force, and the fourth one is weak nuclear force. So these are the 4 fundamental forces we are going to discuss. Now let's see them one by one. So the first force is gravitational force. To understand gravitational force, we have to first understand what is gravity. Now, if you consider this to be our earth, then surrounding the earth there is atmosphere, we, people, human, then trees, houses, hills, mountains, all are above the earth, and the earth pulls everything towards its core, and this phenomena is termed as gravity. But here we are concerned about the force related to gravity or the gravitational force. So what is gravitational force? The gravitational force can be understood mathematically as, if you have 2 objects with masses m1 and m2 separated by a distance say r, then the gravitational force acting between these 2 masses will be directly proportional to the product of the masses and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. So if you combine these together, then you get that the gravitational force is directly proportional to m1 m2 by r square. Now we don't need this proportionality sign, so if we want to remove it, then there is a constant called g or universal gravitational constant m1 m2 by r square. Now this is the force which is acting between these 2 masses m1 and m2. So this is gravitational force, and there is a law called universal law of gravitation. It is given by Newton. What is this law called? This law called universal law of gravitation. Now what it says? It says that any object or anything in this universe is attracted to any other thing. Anything attracts any other thing by a force, and this force is given by Fg, which I just discussed. So that's universal law of gravitation given by Newton. So what you need to remember from this gravitational force with reference to your curriculum is that first is the gravitational force is the weakest force among the 4 fundamental forces. So question can be asked that which force is the weakest among the 4? So the answer will be gravitational force. And what is the second thing? The second thing you need to remember is that gravitational forces are always attractive in nature. If there are masses m1 and m2, there will always be attraction between these 2 masses. Unlike charges, in the next slide we are going to discuss about charges, but for this reference we know that if we have 2 opposite charges plus or minus, there will be attraction, and if we have similar charges there will be repulsion. So this phenomena is not applied in case of gravitation. In case of gravitation, if there are 2 masses, there will always be attraction between the 2 masses, because what is the reason? Because mass can never be negative. Mass is always positive, so there will always be attraction between 2 masses, which is defined by gravity. Now, next thing we are going to study is electromagnetic force. So here there are two terms, one is electro and the other one is magnetic. So let's discuss them one by one. Electro is basically related to electricity or electrostatics. What is the difference between these two? Electrostatic means charge is static, that means charges are not moving, and electricity means moving charges. Anyway, so what does electricity, electrostatics mean? So if you have two charges, say Q1 and Q2 separated by a distance r, then the Coulomb's law says that the force, the electrostatic force between these two is directly proportional to the product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. If you write them together, we can write that the force of the electrostatic force is proportional to Q1 Q2 divided by r square. Now if you remove the proportionality sign, you are going to get a constant which is given by k Q1 Q2 by r square, or it can also be written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by r square. So this is the electrostatic force between two charges. Now suppose we know that if the two charges are similar in polarity, polarity means whether the charges are positive or negative. So if both the charges are positive, then there will be a repulsion between them, and if one is positive and the other one is negative, then there will be attraction between the two charges. So this is about electrostatics. Now how magnetism comes into play? To understand this, we have to know about an experiment, or we can say an accidental experiment by Oersted. What was that experiment? Now he was performing electricity related experiment in his lab, and then suddenly he noticed that there was a magnetic needle placed. We know that magnetic needles are always pointed towards north and south, and in Oersted's experiment there was a copper wire connected to a battery and a key. This is connected, and let's consider there is a bulb here. So Oersted noticed that when he switched this on, when he switched on the circuit, then what happens? This magnetic needle showed deflection. That means the needle deflected. Now this magnetic needle is made up of magnet, and a magnet cannot move until and unless it is under the influence of any other magnetic field. But as you can see, there are no other magnets in this scenario. So what is causing this magnetic needle to deflect? So Oersted concluded that the current or the moving charges through this wire is producing some sort of magnetic field which is causing this magnetic needle to deflect, and that's how we got a relationship between electricity and magnetism. And what is that relationship? The relationship is that moving charges always produce magnetic field. So these two concepts together and we get this electromagnetic force. Now all the things, light which is coming from the sun is a phenomenon of electromagnetism. They are called electromagnetic wave. The mobile phones which we are using, the laptops, the computers, they emit radio waves. That's also an example of electromagnetic radiation. So that is what electromagnetism means. Let's move forward and see about strong nuclear force. So how to get it? So to understand this, let us recall one concept from the previous slide, which is that if the charges are similar, then there is a repulsion between them, and if they are opposite, then there is attraction between them. This concept we are going to need to study about this strong nuclear force. So if you consider an nucleus, inside the nucleus lies protons and neutrons. So if I consider this to be a nucleus, there are protons which I am showing by a red line, and there are say neutrons I am showing by black circles. So this is the case of inside a nucleus. Now we know that the protons are what? The protons are positively charged, or the charge of a proton is positive and charge of an electron is negative. Now do you imagine how these protons, even after being positively charged, remain inside a nucleus? Because there is definitely electrostatic repulsion working between these two protons. So what is binding this proton inside the nucleus? There comes a force called as strong nuclear force. Now this strong nuclear force is doing what? Is binding the protons inside a nucleus. The strong nuclear force is so much strong that it overcomes the electrostatic repulsion between two protons and making them bind together or making them stay together inside the nucleus. So that's what strong nuclear force is. I hope it is understood. To sum it up, what we need to know? We need to know that inside the nucleus there lies protons and neutrons. So protons are positively charged. So if protons are positively charged, then there will definitely be electrostatic repulsion between them. But even after this repulsion, protons can stay together inside a nucleus. Why? Because of a force called strong nuclear force. And also remember that the strong nuclear force doesn't only work between protons and protons, but works between protons and neutrons also, and neutrons and neutrons also. So inside a nucleus, this strong nuclear force is making them stay together. Now if you recall, at the first of our session, I gave you an example of a orange. So I said that a orange or any matter is staying intact because of forces. How I said that? Because see, oranges are made up of what? Molecules and atoms. Now inside the atom there are protons and neutrons. So the protons and neutrons inside an orange is bonded together by this strong nuclear force. So the strong nuclear force, because of this force, the orange remains intact in its original position. So first thing you need to remember is that strong nuclear force is the strongest force among the four fundamental forces. And what is the second thing you need to recall? The second thing you need to recall is that the strong nuclear force is overcoming the electrostatic repulsion between two protons and making them stay together in a nucleus, or protons and neutrons, or neutrons and neutrons. So this is about strong nuclear force. Now the last fundamental force is weak nuclear force. So what is weak nuclear force? Now see, this is a very vast concept regarding weak nuclear force, but what you need to understand is about a phenomenon called beta decay. Now in beta decay, what happens is protons turn into neutrons, or neutrons turn into protons, giving rise to electrons, positrons, and a thing called neutrino. So this whole of this process happens because of a force called weak nuclear force. So in terms of weak nuclear force, you need to remember that the beta decay which happens inside a nucleus, it happens because of a process called weak nuclear force. And what happens in beta decay? In beta decay, we get electrons or positrons, neutrinos or antineutrinos, and so on. So this is about weak nuclear force. So we have got four fundamental forces. One by one we have discussed all of them, which are gravitational force, then electromagnetic force, then strong nuclear force, and then weak nuclear force. So the next thing we are going to study is energy. So what is energy? If we want to define energy, it is ability to do work. If you are being able to do work, it is because of energy. Suppose if you can walk on the streets, it is because of energy you possess. You eat, and that's how you get energy to your every cell, and that's how you are being able to do work. So that's what energy is. Now in physics, total energy is the sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. What is kinetic energy? Kinetic means moving. So kinetic energy means when something moves, when any object moves, the energy possessed by it is called kinetic energy. And what is potential energy then? Potential energy, potential means when something is in stable state or something is not moving, it is staying fixed, then the energy possessed by it is called potential energy. So let's understand it with an example. Let's consider a hill and a person climbing the hill. So the person, when he is at the ground, he is filled with potential energy. As he starts moving, this potential energy is being converted into kinetic energy when he is moving up the hill. And when he is at the top, then again he is stopped, so he is again filled with potential energy, and the kinetic energy is zero when he is at the top. Again, when he starts climbing down, this potential energy is again being converted into kinetic energy, and that's how the total energy of the person is the sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. So this potential energy possessed by him is being converted into kinetic energy. So when he is moving up the hill, the potential energy drops and the kinetic energy is gained. Again, as he reached the top, the potential energy is again maximum and the kinetic energy is zero. Again, when he climbs down, the potential energy is being again converted into kinetic energy, and when he reached at the bottom of the hill, again he is possessing potential energy, and the kinetic energy is zero. So that's the relation between potential energy and kinetic energy, and the sum of them are termed as total energy. So that's what energy is. Now with this we have come to the end of this session. So what are the conclusions we can draw? The conclusions we can draw, first thing is we studied about macro and micro aspects of physics. You need to remember the examples I gave you. What are the fields of physics which deals with macro and micro world. The second thing we learned about fundamental forces. Fundamental forces. In fundamental forces, we know that gravitational force is the weakest and strong nuclear force is the strongest among the four forces. What is the third thing we learned? Third thing we learned about energy, which is nothing but the sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. So I forgot to give you one small info, is that the strong nuclear force, there is a range, and that range is 10 to the power minus 15 meter. The size of the nucleus is of the range 10 to the power minus 14 meter, or it is also called 1 Fermi. Alright, so the strong nuclear force works within this limit or within this range. That means it can only work if the distance between two protons or two neutrons or protons and neutrons is within this boundary. If two protons are apart from apart beyond this boundary, then there will be no strong nuclear force working between them. And if we talk about gravitational force, then there is no range, because theoretically gravitation works for any two objects no matter how distant they are. So with this we have come to the end of today's session. So this is Shomik Shaha thanking you and signing off.